The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
On leaving the synagogue, Jesus entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Simon's mother-in-law lay sick with a fever. They immediately told him about her. He approached, grasped her hand, and helped her up. Then the fever left her, and she waited on him. When it was evening, after sunset, they brought to him all who were ill or possessed by demons. The whole town was gathered at the door. He cured many who were sick with various diseases and drove out many demons, not permitting them to speak, because they knew him. Rising very early before dawn, he left and went off to a deserted place where he prayed. Simon and those who were with him pursued him, and on finding him said, "Everyone is looking for you." And Jesus told them, "Let us go to the nearby villages, that I may preach there also. For this purpose I have come." So he went into their synagogues, preaching and driving out demons throughout the whole of Galilee. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
The call of Samuel that we heard in the first reading was unexpected. It was not the way that we would think things should happen. And the call and formation of Jesus' disciples was not the way that they thought it should happen. So if we want to see how God works, it's kind of important for us to look at what we don't expect, to look at how things are rather than how we so often think they should be. St Hilary today is a very interesting example of that. He was born in 315 in an area which is now southwestern France. Now, what does that mean? For one thing, that was pretty much a pagan area with a few Christians around. He was born into a pagan family. 315 was just a couple of years after Constantine had given freedom to the church. So the age of persecutions had ended. Now, one interesting thing is that during the first 3 centuries of the church, the only people who were venerated as saints were martyrs. In other words, if you lived a holy life, even if you were a great teacher, Tertullian and Origen are 2 examples of that, you would not be regarded as a saint. It was only those who gave their lives for faith in Christ who were regarded as saints. Persecutions were over. Christianity was beginning to become legitimate. There weren't people who were shedding their blood anymore, in large numbers at least, for the faith. There was time, there was leisure to really think about what does faith in Jesus Christ really mean? Who was that Jesus who lived 300 years earlier, whose teaching and memories of him were recorded in the Gospels and the other writings of the New Testament? And they began to think about that. And lots of people came up with a lot of different ideas. And it became fairly clear that there was one strain of thought that needed to be upheld. That you could only understand Jesus as being special for us and worthy of our faith and actually saving us from evil if he is truly the Son of God. But what does that mean? How does he partake of the nature of God the Father? A lot of people came up with a lot of explanations for that. One of the most popular was a priest by the name of Arius. Arius was one who said, basically, God created Jesus to be his son. And those who really wanted to be faithful to tradition said, hey, wait a minute. That's not the way that we can understand that, even though it became very, very popular. Now, Hilary was one who was born just about the time that that controversy erupted. He was 10 years old at the Council of Nicaea that defined that Jesus had to be both fully God and fully human. And he was still a pagan at that time. He became a Christian in 350, which means he was 35 years old, he was married and with a daughter. He became a Christian. In 353, the bishop of Poitiers died. And Hilary, only a Christian for 3 years, not ordained, he was a layman, was chosen by everybody by acclamation. We want you to be our bishop. And he accepted and was ordained. Only 3 years as a Christian. He was at 38 years old. He lived for 15 years after that. And during those 15 years, he traveled to what is now Turkey probably about a half a dozen times. Now remember, travel would take a very long time at that time. And he was exiled. And yet, at one point, he was the only bishop in the West to firmly uphold the divinity of Christ. And that steadfastness was really responsible for our faith now. All that in just 15 years. Imagine what the Lord can do in and through us, no matter what age we are, if we truly hand ourselves over to him. Let him work through us. Let him surprise us.